All wings report in.
Housedog, standing by.
MotherGoose, standing by.
Lock S-foils in attack position. Animal Squadron ready for battle.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Animal Squadron podcast. I am your host, Housedog, and with me, as always, my co-host, my co-pilot, the person who has taken care of me while I've been sick these past couple weeks, MotherGoose. What's up, buddy?
Hey, buddy, not much. Excited to finish talking about this film, get on with the rest of the trilogy.
Yeah, I'm excited too, and I don't sound like death as bad as I did last time we were together. Now, every time I cough, I just sound like a Tusken Raider, so
You know,
great.
nothing wrong with that.
No.
Okay, we got a lot to talk about. Should we dive in?
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like I said so much last episode, and I said, well, I'll cover that in the second part, and I've forgotten everything, so we're just gonna see how it goes.
You know, honestly, I'm sure we'll still get around to it.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll remind me, or you'll say something that reminds me of something I was gonna say last time.
Yeah. Okay.
That and last time, I was very sick
Right.
and had no idea what was going on during half of the episode.
Hey, you pulled through. Okay, so just as a reminder for our listeners, we made it through really like almost exactly halfway through the film. The last thing we covered last time was Rey's journey into the tunnel, the cave, and she saw a never-ending loop of herself.
Yeah.
And now we're at the scene where Rey and Kylo are having another Force vision.
Yeah, and the thing that I thought about was we kind of, like, whenever we see them together, it almost seems like to me like it alludes to, like, it came in my head and I was like, it almost seems like we're coming through, like, midway through the conversation here.
Right, like
it seems like they've been talking for a minute, and that's just what kind of struck me.
Yeah.
Whenever we come in on that scene is like, what had they been talking about previously? Because
beforehand,
it seems like they'd been talking about for whatever they're talking about for a minute.
Which actually might make sense for what I am about to bring up. So I mentioned this in our last episode, but this is where it actually comes into play. Rey turned around how she viewed Kylo really quickly. Like their first couple interactions, she hated Kylo. She was so angry at him. And now they're just sitting having a casual conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's what we missed out on in
What
that
they've
time.
been talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe in the novelization it covers that more, because
maybe, yeah.
I know for like the prequel novels, you get a lot of like conversations and stuff that aren't in the movie because you just don't have that kind of time in a movie.
Right. But yeah, we get their hand touch, and they both see a vision, which, I mean, I don't think we actually see it in the film, but it gets alluded to later, but this is the moment where they actually do share a vision.
Yeah. Of the same thing, apparently.
Of the same thing, which I will mention this later, but they have the same vision, but they both think it means different things, and I actually really like that.
Well, even if they shared the same vision, depending on your point of view, you can take it however you want.
Right. So they saw themselves fighting, or Snoke dying, and them fighting his guards. And Rey thought that meant that Kylo turned to the light side, and Kylo thought that meant that Rey turned to the dark side and was helping him overthrow Snoke. And
yes, but that comes here later.
Yes, that comes later. But I really loved how they did that. And then we get Luke coming in.
Yeah, Luke was very interesting in this scene. And the only really thing I have to say, well, I have like two things to say about Luke. But one is where, like, Rey has pushed him back so far that he, stumbles over himself.
Right.
And catches himself using the Force.
Right.
Which I don't understand. The only thing I don't understand about this scene is, like, why they zoomed in on Luke catching himself so hard. Because he literally blew up one of the little huts.
Right.
With the Force. I didn't understand why him catching himself was such a big deal.
I literally wrote, "Oh no, my hut, it's broken." Yeah, I mean they've made it clear that Luke has reconnected himself to the Force. I think it was just, I don't think there was any deep significance to it. I think they were just showing that, oh, you know what, Luke's back using the Force, and that's as deep as it goes.
Yeah, maybe I looked too far into it.
I also wrote, Rey hit an elderly man. It's time to cancel her.
No, it's time to raise her up higher. Down with the elderly.
Oh, okay. Well, let's not get ourselves canceled here.
They are the mulch for the young.
Oh, no, you can't. Hi, my name's Elijah Munden, and I do not agree with this message.
That's weird, because you were endorsing the death of old people right before we started the show.
That is not true. Very much not true. Okay.
What about Luke's interpretation of the vision, which is actually the truth?
Yeah. Okay, so we get to see both interpretations of the vision, and I still don't think this is something Luke would do. And I know people bring up the fight with Darth Vader and how angry he got when Darth Vader brought up Leia and the thought of losing her, but here's a big difference. They were actually in a fight. This was a sleeping child. Like, there's still some difference in there. And I know it was just for a moment, but I don't know. As seeing in the original trilogy how much he refused to give up on Vader, I just can't see him doing this to Kylo or to Ben. I mean, I know we actually get it, but it just doesn't feel in his character.
I'm not defending or saying you're wrong.
You know?
But could I offer a different point of view for you, my friend?
Yes, and it totally is okay for me to say, or not for me, for you to say I'm wrong. We have different opinions on things, and that's okay.
I don't think you're wrong. I'm just trying to look at it from a bigger point of view.
Yeah.
So we see Luke's, not vision, but his recounting of what actually happened that night.
Yeah.
And he has a very important dialogue here of how he probed Ben's mind or whatever, his soul or his heart, and saw the darkness and who he might become. And he had this whole vision while he was in Ben's little hut. And it reminded me of just this plague that for some reason surrounds the Skywalkers, and that is the plague of buying into their Jedi visions.
Right. And
we see it with Anakin so clearly throughout the entire prequel trilogy, and you also see it with Luke.
Yes.
Whenever in Episode 5, whenever he decides to go to Cloud City to face Vader, and Yoda and Ben both warn him that the future's unclear. Just because you have a vision does not mean that it's gonna come true or that it's not gonna come true.
Right. And with both Luke and Anakin, their attempts to try and stop that future is what caused the future. I definitely agree with you on that. So it's not something that I'm super upset about. And I appreciate the fact that it was just a momentary weakness. That feels a lot more real than Kylo's version of the vision, where he thought Luke was actually going to kill him. And, we all have moments of weakness at times, but...
and I think that's what this movie really tried to do.
I don't think... even looking through the... even looking through everything Kylo's done, because Kylo's done some horrible things. He's killed a lot of people. I don't think it's anything compared to Darth Vader and the darkness that was inside of him. And, if Luke is... And even later in the film, he talks about facing Luke, or not Luke, facing Ben, and Leia says, I know my son is gone. If they could bring Darth Vader back, they could always bring Ben back. And that's what... It's not just that moment specifically, it's how Luke views Ben and Kylo in general. Knowing everything he went through with Darth Vader, I just don't see him giving up on Ben.
Maybe not the Luke that we knew then, but like I said, I think this is the point in the story of this movie where it really sells who Luke's character is now.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'll give you that one.
It's just my opinion. Doesn't mean it's the right one.
It doesn't mean mine's the right one. Okay, I don't have anything till we see our good friend Yoda again.
That was my next note too.
All right. Yoda, and it's the puppet version.
Yeah, what do you think of Puppet Yoda?
I really liked it. I think it's cool that they brought him back. Also, side note, I learned in this last week that we talked about J.J. Abrams making a really big deal about returning to practical effects. The Phantom Menace had more practical effects in it. I think all of the prequel trilogy had more practical effects in it than The Force Awakens did. I know that's a totally different film, but it's we've talked about it a little bit, and I was just really surprised by that. But now we're talking about practical effects.
The Phantom Menace had to.
Right. Which, I mean, the Phantom Menace, I think, also had more practical effects in it than any of the original trilogy as well. Not combined, but like individual films.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, but I bring that up to talk about practical effects Yoda. I liked it. I thought it was a good little visual callback. I think either way, if they'd gone the practical or if they'd gone CGI, it would have been fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I got used to CGI Yoda.
Yeah, I did too. But I think, that's how original trilogy fans felt when they moved to CGI Yoda. They were like, oh, but this is what I'm used to. I don't think either way they could have gone puppet or CGI. Somebody would have still been upset.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any winning in that situation, no matter which route you go.
Right. And I'll give them this. I think I preferred that they went puppet Yoda because, not film-wise, but in-universe-wise, last time we saw Yoda, he was a puppet.
That is true.
Obviously not in-universe he was a puppet, but, timeline-wise, in Return of the Jedi, he was a puppet.
Right, exactly. I knew what you were saying. I'm following you.
What did you think about the Force Storm?
I mean, it didn't really bother me. I mean, Yoda's Yoda, so I'm going to believe whatever they tell me that Yoda can do.
Yeah, apparently, so this is the same, might be a light side version, but as we talked about in our last episode, apparently, because of the rise of Kylo Ren comic book series, we find out that we don't know for sure, but it's heavily hinted that it was Palpatine who used a Force Storm, like Yoda uses here, to destroy the Jedi Temple, or Luke's Jedi Temple.
Well, the tree was just like where they kept the books, right?
Right. The tree, it was obviously much smaller Force Storm. The tree literally was just a tree that held the ancient text, and I really appreciated that the tree kind of looked like the Jedi symbol.
Did it? Maybe I wasn't looking.
Yeah, so there's the main part that goes up higher, and then it's got two branches that come around the side. It's kind of hard to tell, especially because it's on fire, but I thought it was cool visually.
I have to know, did you find that out on your own?
The Jedi symbol?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I might even be wrong. Maybe that was not the intent. Maybe it doesn't look like that. Maybe it's just how I saw it. But that's what it looked like to me.
I'll have to go back and look.
I mean, it's not like a one-to-one perfect, one-to-one recreation of it, but like...
No, it's obviously open for interpretation, and that's the way you interpret it.
Yeah. And, along with the whole, the Jedi were a corrupt order that needed to die.
Okay. I want to talk about Yoda and Luke's conversation.
I do too, because I haven't watched this film since it came out, and a lot of what Yoda said, basically has been, I'm trying to think how to phrase this right. It's what you've been saying in defense of Luke and his character.
Yes.
And I think I will definitely let you take the lead on this because I feel like you've got a lot to say. Really, the only thing I wrote was Yoda's words are wise, but it just feels like Luke is going through his character arc again.
But isn't that what happens to us all in life? Don't we all go through our own character arc again at some point?
Sometimes. I believe... I mean, there are definitely people who don't change, but I also believe in the power of change and how people can grow and become better people. And I think that Luke did that throughout the original trilogy, and now we're seeing him go through it again here. And it literally is the same thing with Han. I know we talked about him being like his A New Hope Han, like just a 60-year-old version of that Han. But then I think about the entire film, and I'm like, oh yeah, Han really went through that whole arc again. He started as smuggler, went through, decided to help the resistance or rebellion, and then he died in the end, or how Harrison Ford always wanted that arc to end. And I think we're seeing that here with Luke as well.
Yeah, but I mean, it was interesting with like the whole Yoda and Luke conversation of, he talks about you're always that kid still looking to the horizon. And
right.
A quote that I pulled from one of Yoda's lines there was, how Luke never looks at the need in front of his nose. Luke always assumes that the need is the need of the galaxy and not what's presented right in front of him.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And those Skywalkers, man, they all seem to fail the same way.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think, again, I've said this 100 times now, and I will say it here as well. This film really suffered from the sins of its predecessor, being locked into that soft reboot nature. I think it didn't give Luke the room to grow.
But it's not about Luke anymore either, so you can't...
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree. The story's about Rey, Finn, and Poe, and the Resistance. But, in that, I would like to see, Luke, Han, and Leia as the, character-developed characters they were, not going through their character arcs again. Especially when it's not about them anymore.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it was to show also that these heroes that we revere so much still make mistakes and still aren't. They're still human.
Right. Yeah, no, that is true. Except for Admiral Akbar. R.I.P. Because
Admiral Akbar had his 5 seconds in the last episode. He's dead now.
He's dead. I really liked Yoda's line. Oh, frick, I forgot what it was. It was one of the last things he said about them growing past us.
Yeah, they grow beyond what we are.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Which, I thought that was a really great line.
Yeah, and I think you can take it a lot of different ways.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have anything else on this scene?
I thought I did, but I guess I don't.
Huh. Well, if you think it's something, we can always loop back.
Yeah.
Okay, we get our next scene, where it's Rose, Finn, and the code breaker. I can't remember his name. DJ, right. And they're on the ship, and they're trying to cut a deal.
Yeah, mine comes more after he talks to Rose and Finn. But it's just a scene between DJ and Finn.
Okay, cool. I do have a note on that, but I've got just a couple quick notes before that. I just wrote, good for Rose actually giving up her necklace. She put the safety of the Resistance above her personal sentimental items. And while that's great, it's not, it obviously wasn't something easy for her to do. And then we also learned that BB-8 committed Grand Theft Auto.
Hey, it was
for the greater good.
It was droid and human Grand Theft Auto.
Yes, DJ had a hand in it, but I really thought it was funny when DJ was like, "We stole the ship."
I mean, I 100% believed that BB-8 stole that ship by himself.
And DJ's just taking part of the credit for it.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely could see that, especially with what we see later. Okay, we're at DJ and Finn's line here.
I just enjoyed this little moment between DJ and Finn and how Finn sees this war in such a black and white way. And that's why I really like Benicio del Toro's character, DJ, a lot in this film. And I thought he was a really important person to have in the film, even though he's not really in that much of it. It's like Han, but bad Han. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mostly liked their conversation, and I liked the point that it was trying to make, but I was thinking about it, and I just feel like a lot of the message this film is trying to say is war bad, which I completely agree with, but I feel like it's just a little too on the nose.
I don't think that's what it was saying that was war bad. I think it was saying that there's more to war
it
than what lets on.
Right,
because,
this was
that's what this whole scene's about, is Finn thinks that all those people on Canto Bight were just evil and is supporting the First Order whenever you come to find out
they're
it's
supporting
not true
the
at all.
resistance too, right?
They support whichever side makes them the most money, which happens a lot in real life.
Right, yeah, of course. And this was one of the lines that didn't really bother me that much. But now that I kind of have finished the film and I kind of have my whole feelings on the film, there are a couple lines throughout the film that kind of give that impression. And this, I feel like, was one of the better written ones, because you're completely right. It's showing it's very close to real life. People are just in it for the money. They don't really care who wins. No,
it's not even that you think that this person is bad and this person is good. It's just whatever makes you the most money, and whoever wins, wins.
Right. Okay. I don't have anything until the next scene. We're back at the Resistance.
Yeah, with the Falcon and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so actually, I'm a little before the Falcon. I'm trying to think. Is that this scene? I thought that happened later. Okay. Well, the next thing we see really is, though, the support ship is coming out. They ran out of fuel. The First Order is catching up, and we see it get blown up. And I have a question for you. Why didn't they use either the support ship or the medical ship earlier to just hyperdrive through Snoke's ship? Because they'd already established that it was just his ship tracking them. And we know
it wasn't just, yes, Snoke's ship was the one that was tracking the Resistance ship, but they nipped that in the bud earlier because that was Poe's idea. He said, well, why don't we just try to blow up Snoke's ship and we can jump to light speed again? And they said, they'll just track us from another ship.
Oh.
That's what the whole mission was about, was to disable the tracker for just a cycle so that they could get away and they wouldn't be able to track them through light speed.
Okay, you know what? I will give that to you. I completely forgot about that conversation.
That's why I'm here.
Of course. And I don't remember. Oh, okay. This is when we first. This is one of the next conversations between Holdo and Poe. And I just wrote down again, Holdo should have told them the plan. Or should have told Poe the plan. And Poe shouldn't have thrown things around when he got angry. It just all feels very childish.
Well, that's Poe's character, is he's still a child and learning.
Oh, yeah, no, but not just Poe and Holdo. Again, I think I mentioned this in the last episode. Their interactions just feel like two kids fighting over a toy.
Well, a lot of that is Holdo's character that you don't understand until Poe finally has his great, like, character development moment.
Right. But I just, again, Poe's acting very childish, and we'll definitely get to that later. But Holdo, Poe is a high-ranking, I know he got demoted, but still respected member of the Resistance. Like, I just don't see why she held it from him, and also he should have respected his superior.
I mean, I think Poe's whole thing in this movie is just because you're in a leadership role and a leadership position doesn't mean that you're necessarily ready for it.
Right. I completely agree. I'm probably going to point that out. Actually, I don't know how many more moments like that there really are between the two of them. Oh, well, I guess there's the conclusion to that. We'll get there. Okay, I'm at the Falcon now.
You're going to be so disappointed with my Falcon note because it's not anything special.
My note isn't special either, really.
I just like seeing the escape pod for the Falcon.
Yeah, I do too. And then I just commented on the line between Rey and Chewie where she says, if you see Finn, tell him, and then she stops, and then Chewie, does his growl, gargled noise thing. I don't know how you describe that. And she says, yeah, tell him that. They have feelings for each other? Question mark.
I don't know. And then, of course, Rey blasts down to Snoke's command ship. And I really like that moment that she has as soon as her escape pod opens. And you see, like, the hope of her seeing Kylo.
Right.
And then him just turning away and the troopers being there with the cuffs. And she realizes, like, oh, this plan may not have been a good idea.
Right. Just like... maybe not the exact situation, but this is very similar to, Luke leaving Dagobah after being told not to and facing Darth Vader. I almost said Kylo Ren again. That doesn't happen for 30 years.
I thought you were going to say something else, but never mind.
But no, I honestly think this was set up really well by the film.
That moment, or...
Yeah, really just that moment, but also Rey and Kylo's conclusion. Besides the kind of rushed tone of her changing how she feels about Kylo right at the beginning of when we started talking about this, I really feel like everything else was set up pretty well.
I mean, as far as like it happening within the movie, I feel like it's believable.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And I'm not upset with it. And whatever you said, it reminded you of Cloud City. I would disagree. It's more like Return of the Jedi, where Luke leaves the rebellion whenever they're on Endor, and he tells Leia that he's got to go.
Vader.
He's got to go see Vader.
Yeah. No,
I'll tell you why it makes more sense to me that it seems like that scene here in a second whenever we get to it, like right now, actually.
Okay, yeah. I don't have anything else here until we're back with the Resistance.
Yeah, no, just her and Kylo in the elevator together it's Luke and Vader in the elevator.
Yeah, going up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her trying to convince Kylo that, he's not who he is, and they talk about the vision that they had.
Right.
And I mean, that's Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see that.
Also, it was, I don't know, watching the second half today, there was just some really weird, like, sexual tension between them in the elevator that I did not understand at all.
Okay, that and at the very beginning of this episode, the scene we were talking about where they were, where they touch hands, both those moments, I totally agree, a lot of sexual tension.
The elevator was weird. The hand touching, it wasn't that weird. But the elevator was weird for me.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And then right back to the Resistance, like you said. Was that Gandalf the White or Leia?
Yeah. Okay, so I actually have just a couple notes on the actual mutiny before we get there.
Go ahead. I just skipped to the closest thing that I had.
Cool. So I wrote, good job, Poe, for finally telling Haldo the plan. Like, literally, the biggest conflict between these two is a lack of communication. And we're finally getting some communication. And then, of course, it didn't go Poe's way. So what does he do? He throws a mutiny.
Why not?
Why not? Oh, yeah, actually, I'm sorry. I have a few notes before we see Leia alive. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Poe and his ruffians take control of the ship. I know they're all Resistance and they're good people. I just,
I like the word that I like the fact that you used the word ruffians, though.
I was trying to think of a word to describe them, but I didn't want to call them like scum or pirates or
his fellow
mutants.
His fellow mutants. They've teamed up with Professor Xavier, and they're now the X-Men.
Professor Xavier is going to use his powers to just lift Snoke's ship in the other direction. Okay,
what
and
does this become?
I'll go through these again. We go back to Finn and Poe, and we get to see not Finn and Poe, Finn and Rose as they're walking around Snoke's ship. We get to see BB-9E. How did you feel about our evil BB-8?
It's just a black BB-8 with like a rectangular head instead of a sphere head.
Yeah. I don't know. I like seeing evil versions of our droids. Okay, and then I wanted to note that, like, have you seen the deleted scenes where Poe convinces the stormtroopers to change sides?
No.
Yeah, so that was
Wait, Poe or Finn?
I'm sorry,
I'm
Finn.
confused here.
I'm sorry. I literally.
If you don't do that at least once an episode,
it's not a real episode.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Finn, where Finn convinces the stormtroopers to switch sides. Not all of them, but a group of them. Yeah, so that was one direction they were planning to take the film, and I make a note of this later because I think it would have made the conclusion a lot better, but I really wish they'd gone that route. Finn has this, I think he runs into some of the stormtroopers he knows, and he's able to convince them to change sides, and they help Finn fight Phasma. And I really wish we would have got that, because that would have been so good for Finn's character.
Was it? Because we both watched it on Disney Plus. Is that on Disney Plus, or where did you see this?
I think I saw them on YouTube originally, but it should be on Disney Plus. Let me get through my last couple notes before we see Leia, and then I will look it up.
No, it's fine. Go ahead. Just talk about Leia.
I love, as we mentioned earlier, that Kylo and Rey saw the same vision, and it was interpreted differently. And I think I have one more note of that. I bring it up a couple times, but I think that's everything I have before we see that Leia is alive again.
Well, then go ahead and talk about Leia coming back.
Leia's alive! And then I wrote, good for you, Leia. Shoot him again.
Wow.
And that's really all I have. What do you have to say about Leia?
Just the thing that it's was that Gandalf the White or Leia?
Right. I really like seeing that. Let's see. I'm looking through the deleted scene. Yeah, there's several. I'm not sure exactly which one it is, but there's several scenes with Rose, Finn, and I almost said Poe, DJ before they get captured. I definitely would go look those up. They're very interesting.
I will.
Okay. Next thing I have is Snoke, Rey, and Kylo within the. Did I say all the names right? I'm starting to second guess myself now.
I would too. You get everything wrong.
Snoke, Rey, and Kylo. all I really have note here is Snoke's line, "Darkness rises and light to meet it." Just to highlight, I really love Snoke's lines in this film.
I do have a thing before that.
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You're good. Hux slapping
Oh
Finn
yeah,
in the face while he's about to be executed. And then, yeah, I'm ready to talk about Snoke and Kylo and Rey for a minute.
Okay, Snoke, Rey, Kylo. What do you guys say about it?
I like how the scene was put together. I mean, from the beginning, it definitely didn't end how you think it's going to end.
No, not at all. Okay, do you have anything before it cuts back to the reveal that DJ betrayed them?
No, my next thing was about DJ betraying them.
Okay, cool. I literally just wrote, "Oh no, the criminal they trusted betrayed them. Who could have seen this coming?"
No, I like DJ's character a whole lot, and yeah, you can say that, but like I said, his line here is great. You know, he says, "They blow you up today, you blow them up tomorrow." Like it's all relative.
Right. No, I actually completely agree. I really like DJ's character. The main reason I wrote that was because, again, we've talked about it being a soft reboot, and DJ is Lando in this situation. He has betrayed the gang.
I wouldn't say that DJ's Lando. That's fine for you to think that way, but I don't think he's Lando at all, because at least Lando has redeeming qualities. This guy doesn't redeem himself at all.
Right, yes. It's more of the fact they went to this place, this fancy city. They found this criminal who they thought was going to help them. He ends up betraying them. And yes, in the original trilogy, Lando redeems himself. DJ does not here.
I think DJ was just... And I think they do it again here in a couple of scenes. I think it was Rian Johnson saying, like, "I know that a lot of things we're having to put in this movie seem like a soft reboot, but I promise you it's a new story." And I think DJ's character is one of those things.
The fact that... I make a note of this later, but to me, it really still feels like a soft reboot. He can say as much as he wants that it's not, but there are just so many narrative beats. And again, a lot of this isn't Rian Johnson's fault. I've said it 1,000 times while recording this. It's a sin of its predecessor, or a consequence of the sin of its predecessor. So yes, I definitely disagree with him. And I mean, who am I to say? He was the one who actually directed it, but it doesn't really... While it feels more unique than the other two, it still feels like a soft reboot.
But it was already on a predetermined path.
Right, exactly. It's not its fault. It's The Force Awakens' fault. So, we get the reveal that DJ betrayed them, that great line that you brought up, and they start attacking the escape pods. Or their smaller ships. And my question is, why didn't other ships start attacking? Why didn't they send out some TIE fighters? Like, they could have blown all those ships out of the sky really easy. Aside from plot armor.
Yeah, again, I'm just going to go with plot armor on that one.
Plot armor. Okay.
Suspend your disbelief for just a moment.
Suspend my disbelief. Okay. Next thing I have is in terms of Snoke's final line.
Go ahead.
I hate it so much. I hate that line so much. It's so cringy.
Why?
I think, I don't know if was the writing or the acting, or it's just, like I said, really cringy. He's sitting there, he's saying, I see him turning on his lightsaber and igniting it to finally kill his true enemy. And like, yeah, that's technically what he's doing, but it just makes me cringe every time. It's like,
I think it's very, like, poetic, though.
No, I think so, too. Like, the first time I watched it, I was like, whoa. But, like, looking back, it's probably I love Snoke's lines, and that actually might be why I hate it so much, because Snoke's lines have been so powerful and so great throughout this whole film, and this one just doesn't do it for me, personally.
Okay, since you're the whole, like, soft reboot guy, does Palpatine's lines bother you in Return of the Jedi? Whenever they're in the throne room? Because they're just as cringy. They're just as cringy where he's like, "Ah, yes, I feel your anger, your hate. Take your Jedi weapon and strike me down." Because it's the exact same lines, my friend. The exact same scene.
I'll give you that. I will give you that. And I think that it might be the acting and how it came across. I don't know. Like, I will agree. It's very, very similar scenes. But it didn't bother me as much in the original trilogy.
But is that because you have your original trilogy glasses on?
You know, I try not to. I really try to look at these films objectively, and I think we definitely made plenty of critiques of the original trilogy.
Oh, I agree 100%. I'm just messing with you at this point. And it was a chance for me to do my Emperor Palpatine, and I'm sick right now, so it probably sounded better than it usually does.
It sounded really good to me, honestly. No, I really think that was it, though. I've absolutely loved Snoke's lines throughout the whole film, and this one just felt like it wasn't on that same level. But that, again, that is just me. How do you feel about his line here?
I think it's just a cool, like, again, like, for some reason this film, like, really focused on point of view and everything like that, and how just because I see something one way and you can see the exact same thing doesn't mean it's going to end the same or be the same story that's being told right now.
Right, yeah.
Because Snoke was correct. He was seeing everything happen in real time.
Right, yeah. And he was looking at it through the Force. And you're right, he was seeing everything.
He was just seeing it from his point of view.
Right, and what he wanted and what he thought was best.
Right.
Okay, my next note is can't have a second film without someone losing a hand.
Well, Snoke loses his hand.
Right, that's literally the point I'm making.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought it would be Rey or Kylo, but I was actually pleasantly surprised when it was Snoke instead.
Yeah, I think everybody should be dismembered at some point in a Star Wars film.
Yeah, sure, totally. Okay.
Death to the elderly.
So we get the fight. How do you feel about the fight against the guards?
I mean, we kind of hyped it up last episode with the Praetorian Guard thing.
We did.
They're kind of
bring it up.
Like, it's a cool scene, and it was really, like, it was cooler whenever it first came out.
Yeah.
Now, it's not my favorite thing as much, because I got to thinking about it today whenever I was watching it, and I was like, there's, like, no, like, real, you know, in every Star Wars film, no, not depth. In every Star Wars film, there's, like, the duel that you wait for.
Right.
You know what I mean? And this film doesn't have that. There is no duel in this film.
Yeah.
Did you realize that?
I did.
I didn't think about it until later, but there's no real duel like, you know, episode 3 or episode 2 or 1 or any of the original trilogy films.
Right. No, I completely agree. And I thought, again, it was the same as you. I really liked it the first time I saw it. I thought it was cool. It was really cool getting to see these guards actually do something and not stand around. But, you know, I started noticing things that didn't really make sense. Like, I feel like it wasn't choreographed really well. Like, there's the guard that had the 2 sabers or the 2 swords literally was holding Rey with one hand, could have stabbed her in the back, but doesn't. Why doesn't he do that? Because his second sword just magically disappeared. And it's so frustrating. And then just before that, one of the guards stops Kylo Ren's lightsaber with his armor. And so is their armor lightsaber proof or isn't it? Like, I mean, obviously it's not lightsaber proof. We get to see them, they all die by lightsaber. But maybe that one guy. But, like, so it makes no sense that guard was able to stop the lightsaber with his armor on his arms. Anyway, it's me being nitpicky, just little things.
No, it's okay. That scene's rough too, and it does. I just don't think it measures up to the choreography in the sequel trilogy. Or not the sequel trilogy, the prequel
The
trilogy.
prequels. Right. No, I completely agree.
But then again, if this is your first interaction with Star Wars, like if I was, 9 years old and I had been waiting for The Last Jedi to come out and then that's what I got to see on the big screen, like I would not be disappointed with that at all.
That
But
would be awesome. Yeah.
I got Revenge of the Sith at 8 years old on the big screen. So
Right.
good luck topping that one.
And I think it's really interesting that both of us had problems with that scene, but for completely different reasons.
What do you mean?
No, just like your main complaint is that we never got like a main lightsaber duel. Mine was the choreography was not necessarily that great, and the fact that like they just made like the editing was weird, like the lightsaber disappointing, and then like how well the guard's armor is. Like we both had issues with it, but it wasn't necessarily the same reason.
That's because I'm a child and you do technical stuff for a living.
That is, well, okay. I do technical stuff for a living. I did get my degree in film. You are a grown man though, and your views for not liking it are completely valid.
I'm just a man-child. It's fine.
I will not have you putting yourself down on this podcast.
Death to the elderly. You're taking a drink of water, so you can't stop me.
That is very true. I don't have anything until the parent reveal.
That's what I was about to talk about, too, so go ahead.
Cool. I just want to point out we got an emotional parent reveal after a big fight. Haven't seen that before. No, I honestly didn't mind Rey's parents being a nobody. Like, it's not at all what I was expecting, which I know that wasn't the case, but when we first saw this film, it's not at all what I was expecting, especially because of J.J. Abrams' whole mystery box mentality. He set it up for this grand reveal, and then it not really being that grand. I understand why people were disappointed, but it didn't really bother me either.
I thought it was great. I thought it was perfect. I loved it.
Yeah, and I don't know if I necessarily I loved it, but I didn't have a problem with it like most people. Well, maybe not most people, but a lot of people had a problem with it, and I didn't.
I thought it was great because everybody, just wants to say that Rey is Luke. Okay, Luke had these amazing parents. His mother was Senator Amidala, and his father was Anakin Skywalker.
Okay,
Rey being from nowhere and her parents being nobody, I thought was great.
Okay, so I actually do have a note about that. I don't like the argument where people say that like the Star Wars films made it seem like you had to be a Skywalker to be important or powerful. I completely disagree with that. We don't know who most of the Jedi we see's parents are. We don't know who Han Solo's family was. I mean, we learn more about him and his own family, but that was, 30 plus years after the original films came out, and people still loved Han Solo. We don't know who Obi-Wan's family is.
You're doing the books.
Oh, okay, cool. I haven't really read much into Obi-Wan's story, but like from the film's perspective, like there are all these really important characters who are not Skywalkers, and so, but they're still important to the story, and so I really don't like that argument where people say that, oh, well, if you want to be important and powerful, you have to be a Skywalker, and seeing Rey not be a Skywalker was like so powerful of a message. But like, what about all these other characters who aren't Skywalkers? Are they just not important to the film? Or are they just not actually powerful? Like, no, they're still important.
Well, I think you can... That's what Luke was talking about in the first half of this film, wherever he talks about that mighty Skywalker blood and me being a legend and, him thinking he could make Ben into that same type of legend. And he said that was all wrong.
Yeah.
That was hubris. That was me falling prey to what the Jedi before me had fallen to.
Yeah. And so really,
Once again, sequel Luke is still right.
I just really didn't like that argument for Rey, because you're right and Luke's right there. Like, you can be important and not be a Skywalker.
And even if you are a Skywalker, it doesn't mean you're important.
Right, exactly. I mean, Shmi died in the desert.
Why you gotta talk about Shmi?
Too soon.
Too soon.
No,
R.I.P. my girl Shmi.
R.I.P. I'm trying to think where I lost track of my notes. Yeah, anyway, sorry. It's just something I've been thinking about. Like, I wasn't entirely set that Rey needed to be a Skywalker or Kenobi or nobody. But I saw that argument a lot in defense of the nobody parent reveal. And it just kind of made me sad thinking about all the other important characters that weren't Skywalkers.
You brought up Tusken Raiders, and how all I can think about is Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and how much I love Tusken Raiders now.
Right? They really did a great job showing the Tusken Raiders as like real people, and not
Which, like a year ago, I can't believe it's been this long. I read the Obi-Wan book. It's old EU now, or it's Legends, and
Right.
it's the Kenobi book. And I read it because it was around the same time that they announced that a Kenobi series was going to happen. And I was like, well, I want to read this to see whenever it does finally come out if they borrow anything from here.
from it. Yeah.
Wonderful book, and a lot of it, like half of the book, is told from this tribe of Tusken Raiders' point of view.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's a great book. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. And with Obi-Wan coming up soon this year, I'm very excited, and I want to learn more about the Tuskens. And I just think it's great that what they finally did with them. But
Yeah.
you mentioned Tusken Raiders, and they've been on my brain. So
No, I completely agree. I mean, I haven't read the book, but it's something I've been thinking about reading. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about it on TikTok. So next we get the moment where they are force fighting over the lightsaber. Do you have anything to talk about here?
yeah, actually, their talk before that happens.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
I love Kylo and her talk right there, where he's like, you think he's being mean to her, and like he's belittling her, but really it's just, I think it's what Kylo wishes somebody said to him while he's been on this journey on his own.
Ooh, you know what? That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, because he's saying all these things to Rey, and it sounds like he hates her and like he's just being mean to her, but then at the end he says, but not to me. And you
Yeah.
can tell he really means it, and I think he's being actually very genuine. I don't think he has any sort of what's it called?
Malice.
Not that, but like underlying or something motive, ulterior motive.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any ulterior motive to whenever he says that, and like he's trying to make Rey follow this sort of grand plan that we think that Sith always have. Like I think Kylo is his own thing, and I think that line really shows us there that he meant it. Like, but she wasn't trash to him.
Yeah.
Like to him, like she's something special.
She's something
And I
important.
think he knows that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really awesome.
That's how I read that scene.
Yeah, no, I was more focused on the actual like parent reveal. I've never really put much thought into what he was trying to tell her.
Yeah, I mean, at first glance, it just seems like, Kylo's trying to get her to join this side. And again, Kylo brings up that point of letting the past go and letting it die.
Right.
And I don't think Kylo had, like, he didn't want to be, I don't think he wanted to be evil anymore, and I didn't think he wanted to be good anymore. He just wanted to find his own way, and he knew that if he had Rey, he could find that path.
Yeah.
Because he's like, who cares about the rebellion? Who cares about the First Order? Like, let's just let all of this stuff go and find out who we are, which is
Right.
a lot what Anakin tried to do, but he thought he could only achieve that by destroying everything.
Right, becoming the most powerful.
Right, and that's not what Ben has done at all. Ben doesn't really care about power. Ben just doesn't want to be alone anymore.
Right, which is very sad, especially considering what happens to him in the next film.
Yeah.
But we'll get there when we get there. Okay, you want to talk about the lightsaber force duel?
I don't know. I don't really have anything to say about it.
So, okay, as I mentioned, I really was okay with Rey's parents being nobody, which again we know isn't the case, but we're talking about it in context from this film. This was the one of the main reasons I really wished that Rey had been a Skywalker. I know she, officially gets adopted in, but was a Skywalker. Them fighting over this lightsaber, and it ended up breaking, and I really think they missed a really powerful message, a really powerful theme of the legacy of Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. And I know I won't talk about it much because I've already mentioned it a couple times while talking about these films, but this moment here could have really drove that theme in, especially with
Is
the
this
lights.
the next part of the Elijah cut of the films?
This is the next part, yeah.
So how would you have done that scene if you were rewriting it? I just want to know, because you're going to talk about it in a roundabout way, but just tell me how you would change it, because I don't understand what you're getting at here.
I wouldn't change anything. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. Them force
Well, I guess
fighting-
I'm just confused, because you said, they could have taken this a different way to make it more about the legacy of Anakin. So
no,
that's
sorry.
why I thought you were going to rewrite it here.
No, what I'm saying is, if Rey was a Skywalker, either, I don't know, they were brother and sister, or they were cousins, or whatever, this moment right here where they fight over the lightsaber and they break it, could have been really great for that theme of their duel over Anakin Skywalker's legacy. Either was he a Jedi, was he a Sith, did he belong to the light side, did he belong to the dark? So this specific scene, I would have changed nothing, and that's the point I'm trying to make. This scene makes me wish she had been a Skywalker, because I think it's really powerful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I just don't like this scene.
Oh yeah, no, and yeah, I mean, nobody likes to see Anakin's lightsaber get pulled in half.
I mean, we've seen it cut in half by a droid-making machine.
Okay, you're right. That is true. I
don't know. I thought it was... I'm just not wild about this scene. This is one of those few scenes in this movie where I'm just like, which I don't know what it is about the... So I really enjoyed The Last Jedi. I like it. I enjoy the first half much more than I do the second half.
Okay. That's so funny. I'm sorry. I was in the middle of drinking a water, and I will definitely let you get back to your note, but I like the second half better. Anyway, keep going. I just thought it was funny.
No, that's it. I just like the first half more than I do the second half. I don't know how you like the second half more than the first.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll get to it when we get there. But yes, I'm totally okay with her being a Palpatine. I was okay with the whole nobody thing, but this scene made me wish she was a Skywalker.
Let's talk about the Holdo maneuver.
Let's talk about the Holdo maneuver. How did you feel about it?
I mean, I remember seeing it with you, and I just remember the theater being just like the movie, where whenever it happened, the entire theater went nobody talked.
Yeah.
Whenever it happened, the entire theater just went quiet, and it's a great scene. I love it each time. It'll never be as good as that first time though.
No,
where just remembering the silence in the theater.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. That's just one of those moments you had to have seen first in theater with people who'd never seen it before.
Right. It's one of those few moments in cinema history that I think I don't think a lot of people take Star Wars seriously as serious film.
Yeah.
But it is. I mean, we're Star Wars fans, so it's not really it matters much what we say. But that's a powerful scene, man. And to have an entire theater full of people be quiet, entirely silent,
And just
even
in
for
shock.
just a moment, is something very powerful. And I think when you can achieve that's a special thing.
It really is, and I don't think anyone was expecting it.
No, nobody really knew what she was going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think I really don't think that was her plan from the beginning. I think she was just going to keep going until she ran out of fuel. But once she saw that their ships were getting attacked, she had to do something.
Yeah. No, that was just a very wonderful put together scene.
Yeah.
And that's all I really have to say about it.
So, me as well. Let us move from something I really loved to something I really did not like.
Are we talking about Finn?
We're talking about Finn, and I think it's really lucky that all those stormtroopers died, and Finn and Rose didn't. Again, just plot armor, but there were hundreds of stormtroopers in there, and then there were just almost none. And then we cut to them trying to get away, and Phasma walks in, and wasn't she right there while they were about to be executed? Like, so what? The ship got blown up. She walked away, got a couple stormtroopers, and walked back in so they could make a dramatic entrance. I really don't like that.
Hey, Phasma can do whatever she wants, I guess.
You know what? Phasma can do whatever she wants.
She only has like 10 minutes of screen time anyways. Who cares?
Right, she's got to make the most out of it. No,
She's got Boba screen time. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird that she was right there, and then she wasn't, and then we see her walking back in. Okay. Do you have anything till we see BB-8?
No, you can talk about BB-8.
I loved BB-8 here.
I did too. I felt like this was like a real BB-8 moment. Because, like, a lot of moments you think, like, okay, that's just BB-8 being R2. But I felt like this was a real BB-8 moment, and I liked it.
I did too. I really loved that scene. And then I think the last thing I wrote here was I really liked Poe and Phasma's fight. I feel like this was supposed to... I feel like this fight
You liked Poe and Phasma's fight?
I did, actually.
Okay, because I...
Okay, I'll let you get to why you didn't like it, but I feel like this was supposed to replace your standard lightsaber duel. It just... Neither of them had a lightsaber. But, I'm sorry, I had one last thing. I think the scene would have been a lot more powerful if they had gone the route of Finn turning the stormtroopers to their side. But that's really it. What do you have to say about the fight, my friend?
So it's not really about the fight. I'm going to hate on the scene and defend it at the same time.
That makes total sense. I know exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah, so Poe is... Poe. Dang it!
Have I been saying Poe this whole... I think I've been saying Poe this whole time. It's Finn. I'm so mad. I apologize. I have a really bad migraine right now, and it's really hard for me to think and like put my thoughts together when I have a migraine. So I apologize.
So Finn. Yeah, we've definitely been saying Poe this entire time.
Yeah. Finn. Dang it.
Finn, just how cringy he is. He's so cringe in this scene.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Can I go on a quick tangent on the cringe lines in the sequel versus the cringe lines in the prequel?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so George Lucas has come on record. He refers to himself as the king of wooden dialogue, and that he writes dialogue as if they were sound effects, which makes it sound like an insult, but it's not. Star Wars has some of the most amazing sound effects in cinema. And so yes, it can be really cringy, but everything has a purpose. And I feel like the cringy lines in the sequel films just don't have that same purpose. They didn't have that same mentality of trying to make it a sound effect. And so they're just cringe without a purpose. And I'd like to recommend a video called The King of Wooden Dialogue on YouTube by a channel called So Uncivilized. They go into this whole subject in depth. It's really good. Anyway, Finn is cringy here. What do you got to say about it, my friend?
I hate it so much. It's so gross. And they're not like... I don't know.
To be honest...
Spoiler alert for Book of Boba Fett. So turn off your ears for like 15 seconds. Starting now. But like one of the most recent episodes of Book of Boba Fett where the Mandalorian says wizard which we get from Phantom Menace.
Right.
Anakin's best friend says wizard. Okay, spoiler ended. Anyways, yeah, but I will defend Finn and his cringiness. That he hasn't much. Whenever you think about the timeline of the last film and this film, that no time has passed. So Finn hasn't really gotten to like develop his trash talk.
Right. Right.
He's still just that scared, stormtrooper deserter that we saw in the last film. So he hasn't gotten to work on his trash talk. But oh man.
Okay, do you remember what he actually said? What I was focused on was like the actual choreography of it and like Finn's character development, because we talked about it in part 1. I feel like Finn, between The Force Awakens, took 2 steps forward in terms of his character development, and then when The Last Jedi started, he took 1 step back, and that was kind of frustrating. But I feel like this was him moving forward again, actually getting to face Phasma, and so that's how I was looking at the scene. I wasn't really paying attention to the dialogue. So, what did he actually say that was cringe?
Oh no! It was a great moment for Finn. Just the words he was saying were awful. I forget the first thing he said, but it's the whole "you are always scum," and then rebel scum. Like
and he says rebel. Okay, yeah.
I forget the other thing he says. It's just it's towards like the beginning of the fight, like right when they start. He says something, and I'm just like, gross. I actually have a note of this later. They literally stop referring to themselves as the Resistance. They just, from here on, and there might be a couple other moments, but like where they do refer to them as the Resistance. But everything I caught, they referred to themselves as the Rebellion, and it just. Again, it's the both those 2 different agains were for different things. It is the consequences of the sin of its predecessor. They went in this direction and they got locked into it. But the galaxy just feels exactly where it was at the beginning of A New Hope, and the galaxy at the end of The Rise of Skywalker feels exactly where it was at the end of The Return of the Jedi, and it's just frustrating. Anyway, I know we're talking about the Rebel Scum line, and I went on that long tangent. I apologize. It's okay, buddy.
I don't have anything until we see Snoke again.
Well, parts of Snoke.
Parts of Snoke, yes.
And that's okay, because I'm there too.
I literally just wrote, Snoke, you are so ugly. Got him.
My whole thing is about Hux coming in there and almost killing Kylo Ren.
I know. He shouldn't have hesitated. He should have just done it.
Wow.
That was a little harsh, wasn't it? I wrote the note, and now saying it and hearing it out loud, that was a little harsh.
Now it makes sense why you always tell me death to the elderly.
I never said that in my entire life.
It all makes sense.
No, I'm not saying that Kylo... You know what? No, I think that we've established that Hux is kind of cowardly, so it makes sense he didn't go for it when he, officially go for it when he had the chance.
Oh, he was going to. If Kylo hadn't have woken up right then, he would have killed him.
Yeah. Yeah. You are right. I really find it interesting that Kylo lied about how Snoke died.
Self-preservation, though.
Right, of course, but also, shouldn't there be cameras, security cams? Isn't there some security guard who just watched that whole thing happen?
Okay, suspend your disbelief for a moment.
Yes, I'm sorry. Suspend your disbelief. You've got
and
to
also, Kylo waking up at that point and looking around and not seeing Rey there was probably pretty disappointing.
It was, he was probably very
because now
sad.
he knows. I mean, he's still got a bit of hope, and I'll bring it up whenever he loses all hope later. But he thinks that maybe they can still work this out, and this was just a thing. But
no. And from what you were saying earlier, I hadn't really thought about it before until you mentioned it. He really cares about her. So that adds a lot of depth to him here.
Yeah.
And I have given this trilogy a crap ton of crap about it being a soft reboot, but this moment where they fight Snoke together, and then Kylo declares himself as supreme leader, I really like that. It felt very individual, because while we know that Darth Vader wanted to kill Palpatine and become the Emperor himself, and we know that he did end up betraying Palpatine to help Luke, it ended in a very different way. Vader died in the arms of his son, having been redeemed. Kylo, on the other hand, has now moved further within the darkness.
Or has he?
Or has he? Who knows? Maybe in the next film, he'll be kind of dark for a little bit and then turn to the light side again. I don't know. But for the moment,
was he ever
here,
really dark, though? I mean, even from The Force Awakens, it establishes that Kylo doesn't really know his place in all this, and he's split between both ways.
Right.
Even Snoke says it multiple times, that he doesn't really know where his loyalties lie.
No, I agree. I'm saying that I feel like this is actually individual, like this film's own individual identity and not just a soft reboot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the whole point I'm trying to make. I'm trying to give it credit where credit is due.
To me, Kylo is just Episode 2 Anakin, just a little bit darker. And more confused. He's like Episode 2 Anakin, but only if he stayed in the moment where he talks to Padme whenever they're on Tatooine, like, right after he killed the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
Like, if you just stayed in that moment, that would be Kylo Ren.
Okay, I can see that. Okay, I want to point out the fact that Poe, Finn, and Rose's plan to save the Resistance actually ended up getting most of the Resistance killed.
I want to talk about how Poe, like, one of the first thing he asks is, "Where's my droid?"
That is true. That is true. Yeah, he loves that droid.
And then I want to talk about the snow foxes. How dare you skip over the snow foxes?
Okay, no, sorry. This is in reference to them. This is in reference to all of them, all the ships getting shot out of the sky because they brought DJ onto the ship, which then led DJ to telling the First Order their plan, which got
I thought
most
you were
of them
talking
killed.
about something else.
No, sorry. This is like they're all getting blown out of the sky trying to escape their ship. And literally the only reason the First Order knew about them was because Finn, Poe, and Rose came up with this plan. Long sequence of events. But if they just trusted Holdo, stayed on the ship, followed her plan, none of those ships would have got blown out of the sky. Because DJ wouldn't have been on Snoke's ship to tell them.
You backtrack so far for this one point, but okay.
Sorry, I know I really backtracked, but literally as they're landing, that's when I realized it. I was like, oh, frick, wait. They got all their friends killed. It's kind of their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Yes, backtracked, but that's like here in the film is where I thought about it.
I see now.
So let's talk about the snow/glass crystal foxes.
Crystal foxes? Yeah, no, they're really cool. And like the commentary about the film or the making of this movie, like they had to hand make those foxes so that they could animate them.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really like they had to make them into a practical like little creature. Like not a full puppet, but they had to like hand make these crystal foxes so that they could animate them.
So the animators could see how they actually move and like how the crystals react to the body.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's really cool. They like made them into a little creature.
I want one as a pet in real life.
You have one. She's sleeping right behind you.
Azula, I didn't mean it. That's in reference to my cat to our listeners. Okay, you want to talk about Poe and his droid, correct?
No, just that one line that he has, but that happens before the snow foxes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
He just asks him, "Where's my droid?" And then we get the snow foxes.
Nice.
Crystal foxes, whatever they are.
That was good timing on Finn and Rose getting inside while they could.
Yeah, great timing.
And I really like the fact that obviously they didn't know this was Finn as Rose, so the Resistance just started blasting.
Yeah, so I just started blasting.
Okay, so we get them. They're safe inside the fortress, or so they think. And then, mini Death Star.
Well, no, so I want to talk about it, and it's more about your soft reboot stuff that you always talk about. This is one of those moments where Ryan Johnson said, I know what people are going to say when they watch this film. And they set it up just like Echo Bait. It's about Salt Lick Guy. I love Salt Lick Guy. And I think it was a point that Ryan Johnson made in this film.
Okay,
to say, we know we're redoing Echo Base, but I'm here to tell you that I know it looks like Echo Base, and here you go. I'm going to tell you that I know what you're thinking.
Okay,
so suck it. My name is Ryan Johnson.
Okay, but I'm sorry. I really don't like how Ryan Johnson, like, I do think he put a lot of care and love into this film. I really don't like how he responded to the critique overall. Like saying, hey, we set it up just like this scene, but you're wrong for putting that connection together. That's...
I don't think that's what he was saying. Maybe I went too far there because I just wanted to tell you to suck it. But
I had that note. I said, somewhere later I said, I know it's at the end of the film, but Battle of Hoth, ? And like, that's totally...
I like that he admitted it, though. I like that he admitted that that's what the scene was.
Right, okay, but then... That's totally okay, but then saying you're wrong for making that connection, like, that's really crummy.
I don't think that's what he meant by that. I just meant that I like that he did that.
Gotcha, okay. But yes, it is very similar to the Battle of Hoth. And, I'm sorry. I still, even if him saying it's not, it still feels like a soft reboot.
I just like that he admitted it to it in the film.
Yeah.
That
okay.
was my whole thing.
What do you have to say about Mini Death Star?
I'm not mad about it. I don't even care about the Death Star thing. I wanted to talk about the walkers.
I actually thought the Mini Death Star was cool. Like, I think it is like, oh, another Death Star reference, but I actually liked it, and that's a good use for it, destroying buildings or these huge walls.
So you're saying you also endorse the Death Star because you said you think that that's a good use of the tech, so therefore I infer that you mean you like the Death Star, which means you like killing innocent people. Am I wrong?
That is not at all what I'm saying. Oh, I did want to say that I really, even though I made the connection between it and the Battle of Hoth, I did think this was still a cool fight overall.
It was okay. Talk to me about the walkers, Elijah. That's the only thing that I care about.
I thought they were really cool. I love that we saw AT-ATs, but then we saw much larger versions. I don't know. I can't remember what they're called. I'm sure you know.
Yeah,
but
so
I thought they looked
what
awesome.
I've heard is that they're gorilla walkers.
Yeah, okay, they remind me of gorillas. The, like, bigger upper arms. But is that what they're actually called?
I don't know what they're actually called. I've just heard the slang for them is that they're gorilla walkers. And I really like that they put the old AT-ATs next to the new ones.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, if you got the tech, even if they're smaller, use it.
Yeah.
So you thought the fight was just okay?
Well, I have a thing, like I have a few things about like them heading off to defeat the mini cannon, and stuff like that. I like that Poe now knows when to pull out of a fight.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the film, he would not have. I thought visually it looked really cool. Their ships going over, and they've got the draggers bringing up the dust to help cover the fighters behind them.
Well, you also need the mono skid for it to work, so...
Hey, either way, looked cool.
It did look cool. And I guess it's more of a question than a note for you. Would Finn dying here in this moment have been more meaningful than if he had lived?
Okay, before we get to that, how did Rose catch up to him? Because she
I
was
know,
so far
I know.
away.
She was on the other side of the battlefield. Suspend your disbelief, plot armor, whatever answer you want to go with for this one.
Also, the TIE fighters are there. They're destroying these people, and all of them follow the Millennium Falcon. Again, I know, I gotta just suspend my disbelief, but that was another note I had, that all the TIE fighters just left them.
Well, Hux told all the fighters to follow the Falcon.
Oh, okay, I didn't catch that line. Okay, never mind then, I will give it to them.
Yeah, either Hux or Kylo Ren said for all fighters to destroy that. Yeah, it's the meme. Blow that piece of junk out of the sky, or whatever it is.
Oh, okay, I guess.
And then I think Hux gives the order for all fighters to go shoot down the Falcon.
Okay, never mind. I guess I don't know what was happening. I just did not catch that line at all. Maybe I was probably writing a note about something. Okay, so yes, to answer your question, I think I think Finn should have died here. I think it would have been really meaningful, and I think it would have been really powerful for his story arc.
Yeah, I would have been fine with Finn dying here.
Yeah.
Especially with what they did with this character in the next film.
Right.
Might as well have just killed him here.
Yeah. Same thing as how we felt about Leia in part 1. It probably would have, in hindsight, just been better if they had made the sacrifice.
Yeah.
But then Luke would have had nothing to do later in the film.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so shall we talk about Rose's line?
Ugh, I didn't write it down specifically because I didn't want to talk about it, but I guess you do, so go ahead.
Cringe, war bad, cringe.
It's as bad as rebellions. Rebellions are built on hope. It's just as bad as that.
I think it is worse.
It's just as bad as that, and that's not me being a Rogue One non-fan.
Okay, I will
just
admit
as cringe.
that line from Rogue One was cringy, but I think Rose's line here is a lot worse. And I think it was just the script there. I don't think that was on the actress, but
it doesn't seem very genuine.
It doesn't, and their kiss feels a little forced, especially as we've mentioned it a few times. It really felt like the film was trying to set up Rey and Finn as a couple, and then, now this other lady's kissing Finn, and how did she catch up to him, and his sacrifice would have been a really powerful into his story. There's just a lot wrong with this scene.
It's weird.
Yeah. Shall we talk about Luke?
I was hoping that you were ready to talk about Luke, because I definitely don't want to talk about Rose anymore.
I'm sorry, I have one more note. How did no one shoot them? They're just sitting there. Someone should have shot them.
I thought that too. I was like, how have none of these walkers just destroyed them both?
Right, and the fact that Finn was able to drag her all the way back and no one shot them. Anyway, let's talk about Luke.
I love that before we know that this is a forced projection of Luke, the fact that he decided to come back with his beard cleaned up, it's darker, he has the haircut that he had in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I love that he chose to come back like that.
I think he should have actually come back. Change my mind.
No.
I really don't like the twist that it was just a force projection.
I do like that it was a force projection.
I think it's a really cool use of the force. I don't have any problem with that. I know a lot of fans were like, that's not how the force works, but I'm totally okay with that. I just think he should have actually come himself. Especially being his last moments, he should have come to actually be with his sister. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. This leads into my one of the main points I have about Luke and why I don't like him in this trilogy. I completely agree with you. His decision to leave and give up after his school is destroyed, cool, I get that. What I don't believe is, and especially in this moment where the two of them are talking, I don't believe that Luke would actually abandon Leia. And that is one of my biggest issues with him leaving the way he did and not coming back. Like, regardless of his Han and Chewie and C-3PO and all the other people he cared about, like, one, I don't see Luke leaving his friends like that, but even more so leaving his sister. Like, we see throughout the original trilogy how much he cares about her. We see in this film how much he cares about her. I don't know. Sorry, I never really thought about that before until this watch through.
He left her in Return of the Jedi in order to protect her. He was going to kill his father to protect her.
Right. He would go very far to protect her, but to just completely abandon her like that, I don't agree with him.
That's what he thought he was doing in Return of the Jedi.
I don't.
And Leia even tells him. Leia tells him, if you're so scared of what's going to happen, run far, far away, Luke.
I don't agree. I think he went, as you said, he faced their father to protect her. Doing something to protect her is not the same as him abandoning her.
Right, but he had had the shame of their. So Luke took Ben going over to the dark side as his fault.
Right.
He held that guilt. So imagine like having to go to someone that you trusted with your child and them having to confront you and tell you, hey, I failed and now your son's gone forever. And by the way, he's like a huge mass murderer now and he just wants to kill everyone. And yeah, sorry about that. But I hope we can still, be family. Like, no, you're going to be an absolute wreck. Like, you wouldn't want to face that person.
Okay, I'm not saying that he didn't have the right to feel how he feels. Like, he definitely does, because you're completely right. He would be a wreck, and he was a wreck, but just abandoning Leia to deal with it by herself, I don't know.
I think it's pretty human. I think that's what the whole thing about Luke's character is that, like, we've hyped Luke up to this, like, god-tier Jedi, and he's just not. He's a normal character, and I think that's what Rian Johnson tried to do in this movie, is explain that Luke is a person just like anyone else, and he has faults. Right. He makes mistakes.
I'm totally good with Luke having faults. I don't think we should see him as this godlike character, but I still think you cannot. I think you can still have a set character, like this is how this character acts, and not be a godlike character. Does that make sense?
Yes, sure.
Like Han Solo, he goes through character developments. He's still gonna make mistakes. Which we see him do, but
Han isn't the hero that Luke is.
Right, but the point I'm trying to make it, like, at the end of the day, Han is still Han. And at the end of the day, Luke is still Luke, and Luke can be Luke without being a godlike character. We can show flaws without him completely abandoning his sister.
Maybe.
I don't know. Sorry, I hadn't really thought about that perspective before, and their conversation really made me think about it.
About how no one's ever really gone?
Yeah.
I think that was more about Han than him talking about Kylo.
No, I completely agree, especially because we see him hand off the dice, which I forgot to look for the dice, like I said I would since we recorded last. No, I think that's a really powerful moment, and I actually I know I've just been complaining about it, but I really love that scene between Luke and Leia.
No, I enjoy that scene too, where Luke shows up on Crate, and he has that really important talk with Leia, and then the interaction between him and 3PO is probably one of my favorites.
I really like it too, yeah.
Or just the little wink he gives 3PO.
I thought the line somebody asks, how did he get in here, in reference to Luke, I thought it was funny because clearly, I mean, we know now he didn't. He just appeared.
Yeah.
I think I think just in general about this fight between Kylo, I really loved the like little subtle hints that it wasn't actually him there. Like what you mentioned, he'd cleaned himself up.
So before that.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so like I was talking about before with before the thing with Luke and Kylo, is whenever like Kylo has every single gun that they have on this battlefield shooting at Luke.
Yeah.
And then Luke wiping off his shoulder as he steps out of the dust. I love it.
I do too. I really love that moment as well. Okay, I was very curious when I first watched this how that actually happened. Like, how isn't he dead? And I mean, we got the answer, which I actually appreciate. But no, I really like just the little hints that they give. Like, he was carrying Anakin's lightsaber and not his own. He didn't have footprints in the salt, and then
His
Kylo
haircut, his beard.
his haircut, his beard. Kylo was shown to actually have footprints.
His hand is gloved.
Yeah, it all makes, like, it's all little foreshadowing towards the actual reveal, and I really like that. I still think he should have actually been there, but I do like how they handled the reveal that he was just a force projection.
Yeah. And to talk about, like, all that stuff, I really like the fact that Luke uses, like, the same stance to face down Kylo as old Ben uses whenever he faces Darth Vader.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Which is also the stance that Luke uses, like, in the original trilogy, is the two-handed, like the signature, like, sword stance when you think about it, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, the two hands, like, it's very old.
Yeah. I don't really have anything until his line, everything you said was wrong.
I can't remember if the line that I wrote down is after that or before it, so what do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so I really like that line because he basically says, you won't win today, the rebellion will continue on or will be reborn, and I will not be the last Jedi. I really do like that, but again, it just kind of felt like Luke was going through his character arc again.
I think it all has to do with the fact of they really tried hard to do with what George's idea of what Star Wars is about, and that was to hand it down to a newer generation. And that's what it...
Yeah, no, I agree.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
In an alternate future, this sequel trilogy was much worse.
That is true. That is true. It could have been a lot worse. And, like, in terms of the whole generational thing, I think I've mentioned it before, like, a lot of people have said, well, Star Wars is made for kids, and it's made for that certain generation of kids. And, like, I agree with that. Star Wars is aimed towards kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. But also, as somebody who spends an unhealthy amount of their time watching cartoons, kids' shows can be really, really good. And I don't think that's a valid argument of, well, you just didn't like it because it was made for kids. Like, I love stuff that was made for kids. I've watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, kidding you not, probably 15 times.
That's okay.
Anyway, sorry. We're talking about generations.
No, I think the broad strokes idea was that, like, it's meant for every generation of kids. Like,
yeah,
you know, our parents had the original trilogy, you know,
right.
Our siblings got to have their prequel trilogy until we got it.
Yeah.
And it was handed down to us, and luckily we got to experience it right at the end.
And now, like, my sister's kids got this generation, and our kids don't get Star Wars. Haha, the saga's done.
No, man, our kids will be even more lucky. They get everything all at once.
I know.
They get all 9 films. They get all the TV shows. Like, they will never know what it's like to
wait.
Want. Yeah, to wait and to, like, hope for more Star Wars. Like, they won't know that, like, sadness.
Right. Okay, so what line do you have that you wanted to talk about?
So it's Luke talking to Ben, and he says, "I failed you, Ben.
Yeah.
I'm sorry." And it reminded me a whole lot of Episode 3, where Obi-Wan tells Anakin, "I have failed you, Anakin. I have failed you," whenever they're having their duel on Mustafar. And I was like, this is this is so cool. Like it's the same line, just said by different people.
character. Yeah. And
But
this
it's the same line.
this is one of those moments where like I feel like the rhyming really works. Like Star Wars is supposed to rhyme, it's supposed to parallel, but you can do that without it like being the exact
Mirroring,
same story. Yeah.
Being a 1-to-1, like you said.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I love this thing. I love this moment, and I feel like this film was a lot less anti-prequel.
Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, so I feel like each of these films is a response to its predecessor. So like The Force Awakens is anti-prequel. They made a big point on how we're going back to practical effects, even though they use less practical effects than the prequels. And then they basically retold the story of A New Hope, but there's very few references in a film that's almost all references to something that happened in its predecessors. There's literally almost no references to the prequels. It just feels like a Star Wars film if the prequels didn't exist. Like I really love The Mandalorian and Boba Fett because it feels like a continuation of not just the original trilogy but the prequels as well. And The Force Awakens doesn't really feel like that to me. It feels more like just a continuation of the original trilogy. But it being so close to the original trilogy, a lot of fans didn't like that. So the this film was anti the Force Awakening, and then a lot of fans had problems with that. So Disney tried to correct again, and the next film is anti the Last Jedi. And like I just feel like each film is trying to course correct from previous films. But to like specifically answer your question, I'm sorry for this long tangent. While we don't really get a lot of prequels references, I feel like they aren't actively trying to like avoid the prequels. Like as you mentioned, we get rhymes and parallels to things that happened in the prequels.
Yeah. Well, I think this is like the only really big like prequel references that I've made so far.
I can't remember if it was this part or part 1. I feel like we made one more prequel connection, but overall I feel like this trilogy I would have enjoyed it a lot more if there had been more prequel references, just to make it feel like a more connecting experience. Because like I feel like the prequels and the original.
That's the problem these days. Is like it's easy to look at these films and then to see what's going on
now
on Disney Plus with the shows.
Yeah,
and to be like, oh, these shows are so good. Like
they're so good. I'm sorry.
They are. They're awesome. Like it's really easy to say that the shows are so much better than these sequel trilogy, and it's easy to say that. It's so easy to say that, but I mean, it had to have been terrifying being J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson back in 2017. You know.
No, just being honest, I know that I've been very passionate and while we've been talking about this, but they didn't deserve any of the hate they received. The actress who plays Rose, she did not deserve any of the hate that she received. Like, you're completely right. They were probably terrified, and fans acted horribly.
Well, you know, the minority always sounds the loudest.
Yes, and again, this wasn't all Star Wars fans. Like Housedog said, it was a minority, but they are very vocal. And so that's why we have said it time and time again. Your Star Wars is your Star Wars. Like and don't like whatever you want.
Yeah, I think it's easier, like, for these shows like Mandalorian and Boba Fett to, like, be so loved by fans and stuff, because if they have a bad episode one week, or what you deem to be a bad episode, next week you could get your favorite episode in the entire world that you will watch over and over again no matter what.
Right, you don't have to wait years for the next film.
No, you just know, okay, I didn't really enjoy this week's episode. Maybe next week's will be better.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, and I've said it a couple times, but I really think the films would have benefited from just waiting a few more years, giving us some of the shows like The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, The Bad Batch first, and then moving into the films.
But they didn't.
And who knows, it might have been a disaster if they went that route. We can talk about what ifs all day long.
There's a whole show called What If, so...
I'm serious. Disney, I'm begging. Give us a Star Wars What If, please. Please give us a Star Wars What If.
Okay, back to this episode.
Okay, yeah.
How do you feel about Luke's last line?
What was Luke's last line? I apologize.
See you around, kid.
Oh, yes. I really, really liked it. Like I mentioned, I've got a really bad migraine, and I'm really struggling to form thoughts right now.
It's okay, buddy. I'll get you through the episode.
Thank you. I really liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was a nice callback to Obi-Wan and Vader's fight.
Right, where he talks about being struck down in anger and everything like that. But how did you feel about that last line itself? Because, like, see you around, kid, like, I know that that's Luke saying it, and I know that that's Mark Hamill portraying Luke, but it felt very, like, Han.
Yeah, it did feel Han-like, but to be honest, I think it was, I mean, they spent years together. I think, people rub off on each other. I think Han was a good influence on Luke, and Luke was a good influence on Han.
I like that you said that. That's interesting.
Thank you.
But no, like, him just saying that, like, I'm pretty sure that somewhere, like, Han has said that to Luke.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. It feels like... I honestly thought it was referencing something. Like, it was a line someone else had said.
Right.
I just couldn't think of where.
Well, but it sounds like something that Han said to Luke.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But I'm sorry. I haven't watched the film since it was in theaters, The Rise of Skywalker, and we'll talk about it next time. But does anything ever come of that? Do we ever see Force Ghost Luke interacting with Kylo?
I don't think so.
That's a dang shame. I'm sorry. That is a shame. They set that up so well. But I also liked what he mentioned there, though, about he mentions Han Solo, like, you'll never be rid of me, just like your father. Something like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Okay, do you have anything before Luke fades away?
No.
Okay, I don't mind Luke dying. I went into this series figuring Luke would die by the end, but I don't know. I don't necessarily like how he died.
I mean,
I don't hate it as much as I did when I first saw it. Like, I hated it when I first saw it. I wanted Luke to go out in a blaze of glory. And, like, I appreciate how he died now a lot more. He sacrificed himself to save his sister in the rebellion, and he fades away watching the twin sons of Tatooine. But I don't know. I don't hate it, but it's still not my favorite now. Like, Han Solo's death made me sad, but I got it. It felt right. And
I don't know, when
really
I think
feel that
about
way.
Luke's death, I think as an audience member, I think I felt the way I was supposed to feel because of what Rey says to Leia.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I'm
later.
so glad you brought up the twin sons, because obviously, like, the planet that Luke's on doesn't have twin sons.
Right.
And you see that with the last shot before his cloak flies off the rock.
Right.
And so I love that. But no, I think I felt the way that I felt as an audience member because of what Rey said to Leia, and why I was okay with Luke going out the way he did was because, that short conversation before everyone gets on the Falcon and Rey is talking to Leia, and she's like, I felt Luke, he's not, like, he's gone, but he's not, it wasn't bad, it wasn't good, he's just a part of the Force now.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt about Luke going away in this film. Is I wasn't sad about it. I wasn't mad about it. Luke was just a part of the Force now. And I accepted that as an audience member because that's how it was presented to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
And
know.
if it's presented to me in that manner,
It makes sense.
then that makes sense. I'll accept
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, I don't hate it. It makes a lot more sense to me now, but it's still not my favorite. Okay, we get one last FaceTime call between Kylo Ren and Rey.
I know. And that's my next note, actually, is Rey closing the door.
Yeah,
Now Kylo Ren is truly alone because he holds up the dice. They, fade away because they're not real. They were a projection just like Luke was.
Yeah.
But now Kylo doesn't have his mom. He doesn't have his dad. And now he doesn't even have Luke as an enemy. He has nothing, and he doesn't even have Rey. He has nothing. And that's what Rey closing the door on him really signifies is now Kylo Ren is truly alone.
Mm-hmm. My note's a lot less deep. I just wrote, "You get him, girl."
Death to the elderly.
I mean, Kylo's not that old. Okay, just a little visual thing. We see that Rey kept the books. She snuck them off the island. I really like that. Okay, in terms of Rey and Leia's conversation about restarting the rebellion, it again just felt kind of cringy.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought up earlier, like, I know that's a big complaint people have with the critiques, and it is a valid critique. Like, if you don't like the dialogue of the prequels, cool. That it's a valid critique, but I think that George Lucas uses those cringy lines a lot better than they are used here.
Well, we've seen them pop up years later. So.
Right. I literally, like, name another film where people quote them like they do. Like, there are plenty of lines that get quoted across.
Well, not just
plenty
that,
of
but
films,
they're used again later.
Yeah, right. They're like the prequel trilogy, its lines are just so unique and memorable. And yeah, a lot of them can be cringy, but I can't think of another film or another series where the lines are still to this day quoted like they are. Anyway,
Yeah, no, I agree.
check out the King of Wooden dialogue on YouTube by the channel So Uncivilized. It really goes into this, and it is really good. But yeah, I just feel like the lines here are cringy, and they just don't. That's it. That's kind of the end of it.
I think Rian Johnson's whole point was trying to present you with more visuals than words.
Which, okay, I disagree. I feel like a lot of the cringy lines are there in film. There's the term show don't tell. Use more visuals to tell a story than actually describing what happens. And I feel like he uses more dialogue to describe it than actual visuals. It's very.
How much
on the
of that
nose.
was him trying to like stick to the story though, that he had been set in?
That is, you know what? You're right. It is a cause of the sin of its predecessor. I'm gonna get that tattooed on my body by the time we're done with this.
I think you should, because it's become the new theme of your repertoire of words.
See, that's the thing, because like I have a lot of issues with this film, but it's issues that they were forced into a box from The Force Awakens, and like I want to be clear on that. Like, yeah, I've got issues with this film, but what else were they supposed to do?
Right.
Okay, I think I've got my next note is just they keep referring to themselves as rebels now and not the Resistance.
Yeah, you said that for like okay.
No, I know, because I mentioned I'd bring it up again. Like, at this point, they're, like, Haldo says, I don't know, something rebels, and then we get Finn's rebel scum line, and then here we get to referring to themselves as rebels, and, like, they're not even pretending now that there was a difference between the Resistance and the Rebellion.
I mean, maybe it's so you go back to those roots and
Yeah.
remember what you're really fighting for. I don't know.
Right. And then I wrote, "Hey yo, that kid's a Jedi."
Yeah, but it's another kid looking to the horizon and the
Yeah.
possibility that this kid is going to be the next great. And I think
Right.
that's what that whole scene is supposed to provide, is that
No.
these stories are handed down, and it's the hope in the galaxy that, and that's why you think that scene is so cringy, is because
Wait,
they
no,
are the
I-
spark, and
I
so
nev-
that's what
wait.
this next scene is trying to provide, and that's
Oh.
why the kid is wearing the ring. And
You were saying I thought their dialogue was cringy. I thought you were saying that I said the kid was cringy. I actually really like the scene with the kid. But you're right. It is setting up that next scene.
yeah,
Yeah.
to show that there is hope out there in the galaxy, and
Right.
there will always be another hope. Always.
Yeah, and I really wish we'd seen more of that kid. Like even if he didn't play a major role, I just wish that the Rise of Skywalker would have at least known that this kid's okay.
I hope he died.
Cool. Housedog said that, not me. Okay, friend. I have just a general, like, quick statement about the film, unless you've got anything else to say.
No, go ahead.
I apologize, my friend. You know, I really liked what you had to say about Luke, and you definitely did change my perspective on Luke a lot throughout this film. But I still don't really like how Luke was handled. And like, I'm gonna get very real here. I was really sad. Like, while I finished writing my notes, I turned off the film and I was just sad. I really want to like this film. I love Star Wars so much. I wish that I could like this film. I wish that I could like this trilogy, and I'm really jealous of the people who do. But I was just so sad when I finished watching it.
I mean, it's probably like when people, like, I've heard people talk about Rogue One and stuff, and like how much they love Rogue One, and anytime I've watched that film, I'm just like, I don't feel anything about this movie. Like, it sucks. Like, I have, like, there are moments that I enjoy in the film, but it's like, okay, I can watch an episode of Rebels that deal with the same kind of things that Rogue One deals with, and I will feel way more about this 23-minute cartoon than I will about this, like, 2-hour movie.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I was very emotional while we were talking about this podcast episode, and like, I think a lot of that came from me sitting there. I was at my sister's house. I've been house sitting for her, and I was watching it on the couch. I typically record at my desk, and like, I turned the film off, and I was so sad. Like, I want to like this movie so bad, but I don't. And again, I just want to reiterate, just because I don't like this film doesn't mean you're wrong for liking it. Like, your Star Wars is your Star Wars. I don't. You do, maybe our listeners do, and that's great. I'm really happy.
I mean, that's
for
the
you
other thing.
guys.
It's not like this is my favorite movie or anything. Like,
Yeah.
it's just that, like, out of the prequels, out of the sequels, if I'm gonna watch one of the sequel films, this is the one that I'm gonna watch.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna watch The Force Awakens. I'm not gonna watch The Rise of Skywalker. I'm gonna watch The Last Jedi.
Right.
I don't know why, but this is the movie I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, I mean, I will gladly admit, like, there was a lot of love and care put into this film, and there's a reason that the critics gave this film such a high score.
Is this the highest scoring one out of all three?
Yeah, and that was a lot of talk was this one. Critics gave it a really high score, fans gave it a really low score, and then at The Rise of Skywalker, it was switched. Critics gave it a really low score, and then fans gave it a really high score.
which I find odd if you think about the complaints that I'm so far away from my mic while I'm talking. I think it's so odd that because I have the most problems, well, not the most, but I have more problems with Rise of Skywalker than I do anything else. And maybe that's because I haven't watched it in a minute. I've literally probably seen that film maybe 3-4 times.
Yeah, no, I've seen it twice, and both were in theater, and I haven't watched it since. And like I mentioned when we started watching this one, the Last Jedi I watched maybe a couple times in theaters. But any time that I tried to watch this film, besides now, of course, I actually made it through the film. I literally couldn't make it past them trying to escape whatever planet they were on. I'd watch a few minutes and turn it off. So I'm glad I watched it again. I feel like I do have a very different perspective on this film now, and it may not be my least favorite Star Wars film. I know I was pretty set that it was, but depending on how it goes with the Rise of Skywalker, like that might switch a little bit.
I know, I hate it that I've been like I was looking forward to recording another episode with you, of course, but like I knew that the second half of this film wasn't like my favorite part of the film. Like I enjoy the first half of Last Jedi so much, and it's the second half of the film that I'm not too keen on.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but now like I don't know. I don't want to say that like this next episode is gonna suck, but like I'm really gonna have to like dig deep into the Rise of Skywalker to have things to talk about.
I think you are feeling how I felt last week when we started recording for this episode or for this film. I'm not gonna lie, I was really dreading having to watch it again and this recording. I understand, but at the end of it, I had a really good time. You and a lot of the things you said actually changed how I viewed this film a lot. And I definitely don't dislike it as much as I did, but I still just don't like it.
That'll be interesting because I don't think I enjoy the Rise of Skywalker at all. It's probably right up there with Rogue One.
To be honest, for me, if I were to rate my Star Wars films, my two least favorite would have been most least favorite, The Last Jedi, and the next one after that would have been The Rise of Skywalker. But now that after we've had this conversation, these two might switch. I don't think The Last Jedi's moving any higher. It's still gonna hold that number 10 spot, but
there's only 9 films. How can it be the number 10 spot?
And that's how bad I don't like it. No, I'm also considering Solo and Rogue One.
Oh, okay. I thought we were ranking those on their own.
But no, if we're just ranking the 9 films, this one might move from 9 to 8. We'll see.
I think it has.
I think there were a lot of technical issues with the Rise of Skywalker. Like, I think it gave fans a story they wanted to see more, but it didn't have that like love and care that The Last Jedi had.
I'd say that was an accurate assessment.
Thank you. I'm trying to think. I wrote a long paragraph about my final review. I don't want to touch on everything. I do want to reiterate, though, that out of the whole trilogy, while I still feel like it's a soft reboot, this one definitely felt the most unique to me. Like, the most individual. And I know I already mentioned that note, but I just wanted to bring it up again here as kind of like my final thoughts on the film.
I'm glad that you said that.
And I think my last thing is I gotta throw it in one more time. It was a cause of the sins of its predecessor.
If you don't say it once, it's not a real episode.
Right. Oh no, I've already said it like 5 times while we recorded this, but and I'll probably say it a couple times too in the next film, because it suffers from the same issue that this film does, but I don't think it's quite as bad, and I think it's probably because it shared the director as the first film. But we can get that next time. Do you have any more thoughts on The Last Jedi?
Just the fact that we are now one step closer to closing out the Skywalker saga.
One step close. I'm very excited for that, and I'm very excited for what we've got to talk about next.
I'm not excited for the Rise of Skywalker, but I'm glad you are. So.
Oh no, I'm sorry. When I said what we're going to talk about next, I meant like what we're going to focus on after we get through the Skywalker saga.
Oh, what are we getting to after the Skywalker saga?
We got The Mandalorian. We got seasons 1 and 2. We got Book of Boba Fett. We will have the Obi-Wan series to talk about soon. We got the Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch. We got plenty of video games. Jedi Fallen Order, Knights of the Old Republic, the original and remakes of Battlefront.
We've never even talked about Han Solo or we've never talked about Solo or Rogue One even.
So I was actually going to put those later because I know how you feel about Rogue One. But if you want to talk about those next, we definitely can.
I thought it'd be interesting to do the standalone films before we got into cartoons.
Cool. Okay. That is perfectly fine with me. Okay. If you guys have any questions for us, or if there's anything you would like us to talk about on this podcast, you can email us at animalsquadron@gmail.com. Again, that is animalsquadron@gmail.com. For the Animal Squadron, this has been MotherGoose.
And the ever more exciting, more handsome,
You are more handsome.
more gracious host, Housedog.
You were very much more gracious this time.
Death
Goodbye,
to older
everybody.
people. Death to the elderly.